What's up, everybody? Welcome to my channel, Proof and Prosper, where I remind you each day that you do not need permission to change your life. You just need proof that it's possible. And I am here to show you that by documenting my journey towards lifestyle design to achieve location, time, and financial freedom. Today, I just want to talk about something that I've been thinking about for a while, and it is trying to get into watching anime. And the reason why I believe it's kind of been in the back of my mind for a while is I'm just kind of looking for things to watch that aren't. I mean, I love comedies and things. I have to be in the mood to watch dramatic series, TV shows. I always gravitate towards comedies because I in my free time, I'd prefer to laugh and not be bogged down by dramatic series. Like, I have to really be in the mood to watch something dramatic. And a lot of times those kind of shows require a lot of brain power to pay attention to. So I tend to stray away from them a lot, just because I already feel like a lot of mental overload all the time. So when I do sit down to watch TV, I want to watch something lighthearted that I can just laugh at, you know. And I tend to watch a lot of very old shows. I'm really nostalgic that way. I tend to watch a lot of the shows from like the 90s and the 2000s, the early 2000s. Like, old classics like Martin Living Single, like the Parkers, Steve Harvey Show, like Jamie Foxx Show, um, bringing it up to the 2000s. Mike and Molly, I love Bob's Burgers. Like, I tend to watch a lot of old shows like that because I don't have to think about them too much. And I've seen so many of the episodes so many times. I know a lot of them by heart, so it doesn't require too much brain power. And then they're just to me, in my opinion, just classically funny. Like, throughout the years, the episodes are just hilarious. So I have been thinking about that. Like, dang, I mentioned it in my one of my last videos about how I really don't watch TV very much, especially throughout the day, because I have so many other things most of the time. I'm just used to having so many things to fill up my time that I really don't sit down and watch too much TV every now and then, or I really spend honestly more time watching YouTube than I do actual like TV and TV shows. But I want to kind of start watching shows that are, you know, I know anime is popular. I understand that. I know that, but I kind of want to get back into it just because it's, to me, like, the anime is just sparks a different like a different part of my brain, I guess. Or I guess what I'm trying to say is that I think it's fun and interesting to get lost in animated characters, as well, because it's just, with animation they can get away with a lot more than you can with real people. So I just think a lot of the stories and things tend to be pretty interesting. And the reason why I want to get back into it, I mean, I'm not a, definitely not an expert or anything like that. Don't know, honestly, don't know very much about any most anime outside of like the mainstream stuff. And all I do know is I used to love Dragon Ball back in the day, like in the early 90s, in the 90s, and then Dragon Ball Z was my jam. Like, I loved that. Anime, like, I loved it. I loved, all of that. I tried to watch. I think I watched it regularly. I can't say that I've seen every episode. I do, but I do know that I used to watch it faithfully, when it would come on TV. And so I've always had an interest in, anime. That was like I think really my first introduction into anime was Dragon Ball, and then Dragon Ball Z. And then I can't think if there's any other shows in between there as far as anime is concerned that I've watched. But a few years ago, once I realized like Netflix had anime on it, it started actually suggesting like some random stuff, like, but they were Netflix created anime, like, produced by Netflix. But I found myself watching Agresco. And I absolutely loved that anime. It was so funny. It was so relatable. Like, I really related to that little red panda. She, because she was going through it with her job. Do you hear me? And I really was like, "Man, that's how I be. That's how I be." It's so crazy how they can catch these emotions with these little animated characters. And it was just so funny and entertaining to watch. So I watched I binge watched Agresco. And so I know that I enjoy it. And then like it just, once I watched Agresco, then it started recommending, more of anime. And then I ended up watching this little series. It was called Kataro Lives Alone. And I was like, what? So, it sparked my interest and I watched it. It was literally about this little boy who lived alone and he was like 6 years old. But the neighbor tried like looked after him or whatever. And it was just so interesting. The show. And it was actually, I thought it was pretty entertaining. And so it's always kind of just been one of those things that's been in the back of my mind to like get back into, because everything that I've watched and that I remember watching has always been super entertaining. And I'd like to have something a little bit different to talk about sometimes. So, and it's the nerd in me, always is looking for something like that, something different to get into, something different for me to get into. Um than my usual defaults. And I tried to like I actually started two other series, but I just didn't finish them. One of them was Cyberpunk. Yeah, it was Cyberpunk Edge Runners, I believe it is, on Netflix. And I watched maybe like the first two episodes of that, I think. And they were really good, but I just never picked it back up. And one thing that I am notorious for doing is starting a show and not finishing it, even if I really enjoyed the show. Like, for some reason, I just stop watching shows sometimes. And so I want to finish Cyberpunk, but also I started watching, I think it was called Baki. And I realized there was like a ton of different Bakis. And so I maybe watched like one or two episodes of that, and didn't finish it, but it was pretty good. It was intense. And I wanted to get back into watching it. So I was just kind of thinking about that, like the other day, when I think it might have been yesterday's video or the day before yesterday, when I mentioned about like how I don't really watch TV very much. And I was just kind of thinking about that, like I want to kind of sit down and start getting into some of these other types of shows. And because the usual stuff that everybody kind of talks about. And I mean, like I said, I understand that anime is popular and in that realm, in those social circles, I'm pretty sure anime is, always talked about. But it's something that I kind of want to get into more. It's I think it's something that's more universal than um a lot of specific cultural shows that I'm into watching, especially like black shows, that were like extremely popular, in the 90s and the early 2000s and stuff. I just like to have something that you know, I enjoy watching, but that's also more, more universal. Um, because it can be, I think it's a good, it's a good way to, meet people, not meet people, but just socially, you know what I mean? I guess it's a good way to meet people, but not necessarily like meet people like that. I mean, if it's just a good conversation starter, I think. You might be able to find other people, that you may have that in common with. And I think that's important. Um, so yeah, that was my my random tangent about wanting to get back into anime. Um, some of the shows, like I said, I started two shows that I didn't finish, but I want to go back. And I'm just gonna finish the one series of Baki because, like I said, there was like a ton of different ones, and I realized, and what's so crazy is I have them, I saved, I ended up saving them on my, watch list, and then, Netflix with the algorithm, it goes, oh, okay, you like anime. So then it started recommending like all of these different, all of these different anime series. And one well, I think I was having a conversation with someone that I worked with about Avatar: The Last Airbender. Now, I know that's not an anime, but um I had this conversation, and my coworker was like, "Oh yeah, it was like super popular back in the day. Like it's a really awesome, show, animated series, and you should watch it." So I'm like, "Okay, I'll check it out." So I ended up saving. That's what happened. I ended up saving the original, like Avatar: The Last Airbender, like the animated series. And once I did that, Netflix was just like, "Oh, okay, you like this kind of stuff." So then it started recommending like a ton of different anime and things similar to that. And one that keeps constantly, well, there's a couple that keep constantly popping up that kind of stand out the most to me. And there's about 3 of them, and they are, I believe it's Demon Slayer, One Piece, and Naruto. If I said that right, if I butchered it, my bad, guys. I'm a beginner, okay, novice here, all right? But those 3, I think, stand out the most, right? But let me tell you, when I went to go, I went to look up. You know how you do the more info you go in, and I was looking at One Piece. Why is there so many freaking episodes? I was like, I know this. Is this a one for one show? It had like 77 seasons or some crazy, ridiculous. I was like, "Oh, I would never be able to finish this." So I'm just gonna have to pick like, I think it was broken down into seasons, and then like subsets of the show. It was just a lot. It was a lot going on. And so I was like, all right, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do One Piece, even though like Netflix it always pops up on my um on my feed to watch. So I'm just gonna have to just pick one. I might have to just like Google what are the most popular, seasons or something like that, and just pick one and see if I like it. But yeah, when I saw that, I was like, this can't be right. And then I'm like, oh no, this is correct. Cause then I looked it up. I was like, oh, there's really like 1,000 episodes of that show, which is to me is bananas. Like that's crazy. Um, so yeah, that's one. And then I know Naruto is like really popular. With the little boy, or he's like a boy or a demon or something like that with the headband. I've always known about that show. I just never watched it. And then the Demon Slayer that keeps popping up, and that one's supposed to, like, I think that's a really popular one as well. So I might just those are just some ones off the top. Those are just some ones off the top that I think I'm going to try to get into. I'll keep you I'll keep you all posted on how far I get with that. But like I said, I want to kind of get through. I want to get through Cyberpunk and Baki, just whatever season. I can't remember what it was called. I don't know if it was just Baki or if it had like Baki and then something, some other words after it. Try to just get through those first and then, move on to the more, official. Oh, yeah, and the Airbender. So there's a lot. So I'm so far I've named I think 6 shows all together. So finish Cyberpunk, finish Baki, watch Airbender, watch Naruto, Demon Slayer, and then pick one season of One Piece and see how that goes. And then I think um they just came out with like a live action version of that One Piece, and I'll probably mess it up if I try to watch that first. But I might end up doing that just to kind of get a gist of what it's even about before I even try to watch, the animated show, since there's so many episodes. Maybe if I just watch the movie, I think it's like a movie that they just did the live act, like it just came out not too long ago. I think it's a movie. I might just watch that. A lot of times I'll do that. I'll watch the movie version of something first just to get a general idea, picture, just to get the overall picture of what something is before I try to like dig deep into something, deep dive into something. So, yeah, it's just something that I was just thinking about. I've been thinking about the last couple of days, and I found myself yesterday watching Agretzko again. And the episodes are really short. They're only like 15 minutes long. So it's super easy to just kind of sit and watch that show, just binge watch it. And then before you know it, like 3 hours later, and you've watched, all of the episodes. Yeah, like 3 hours or so, 3 or 4 hours. And I was just watching that and I was just laughing so hard. I was like, yo, yeah, I have to start back watching anime. So it's just one of those things that I'm trying to do that takes me out of the normal, routine. I'm trying to break away from the habits that I have been doing. Um, I guess they were more coping mechanisms, with dealing with burnout and stuff like that. And I'm trying to expand and try to do something different, try to activate, a different part. I keep saying activate a different part of my brain. And I don't know that that's really the most accurate statement, but I'm just trying to, just and open up my horizons. Open up my horizons, I guess, and just explore like other things and trying to find joy in other things. Because like I said, I want to start focus on different things to kind of just activate the creative part of my, and I don't know that watching anime would do that, but in my mind it's something that might make sense, you know what I mean? Just kind of open up my mind to different, different things. And like I said, I used to love, certain shows, back in the day. And so I know I have I don't know what the word is, where you're, the interest is there, like, so it's already there, you know what I mean? I just have to find another good show to that'll hold my interest, because that's one thing that also like frustrates me like a lot is, man, and I don't know if it's because we're constantly being stimulated with watching, things online and just having the internet and just so much information, but like nothing really holds my attention, like nothing new. Um, and like I said, it's kind of annoying, and I don't know what it is, because even if I like a show, I may just stop watching it. So does that mean that I really didn't like the show? I don't know. Maybe, I guess. But yeah, it's just one of those things that just annoy me a bit, because like it's like, man, why can't I just sit down and sit still and watch a show and figure out what it is. Like, it's been so long since I've been able to do that, and I think because I got it in my brain that it's just a waste of time. You know what I mean? And I need to, and I mean, it can be, because you hear, like, especially when you watch things online where people like are always trying to like you know, it's that whole hustle culture. Oh, well, you want to start a business. Well, how about not watch 3, 4 hours of Netflix? Like, it's always that kind of thing, always looming. And then when you're already, you know, you know, in that frame of mind where you gotta always be grinding, gotta always be hustling, you kind of think about that stuff a lot, and you're just, well, at least for me, I know. And I'm always just like, I could be doing something else more productive. But I really think that that's part of the problem. Like for me right now, is because I need to take a break. I need to take a break and realize that I can still make time for to not having to be hustling and doing stuff, and I can still get stuff done. It doesn't I don't have to be on all day every day, which is what what I am trying to incorporate and get more comfortable with. It's just, yeah, just breathing. It's okay to like spend some time to do something for me. Like, and I'm not talking about self care type, because I don't know that watching anime would be considered self care, but maybe because the overall idea is just breathe and rest and not be so focused on having to get stuff done. So yeah, it was just one of those things that I was thinking about, and I wanted to talk about that today. Just exploring, different options, different things that interest me, s- so that maybe it'll help with me, deciding to um you know, take not take resting more seriously, but not, I guess that's not the right way, but just trying to prioritize rest, even if it is just chilling, sitting back and watching anime or something on Netflix. Or I know there's another thing, I think it's called Crunchyroll or something like that. I don't know anything about it though. I got to do my Googles to figure all this stuff out. But for now, there's just like a ton of anime on Netflix. So I think I'd be good with Netflix for a little while. Um, but yeah, so I'll just let you guys know how that anime situation is coming along. And if there are any anime watchers that happen to watch this video, let me know of some, if you guys have any recommendations of some good anime. I like the action packed stuff, but I don't necessarily like the deep dramatic stuff, which is okay if it has that element, but I do like heartfelt kind of stories or hero journeys. I really enjoy hero journey type stuff. So if you all have any recommendations on some anime series that may fit those categories, drop it down in the comments. I would love to hear from you and find out some good recommendations. But that's all I had for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching my channel, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.